Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Gem Live. Welcome back to another video. And I have my roommate here, Jake, again. And so you know we are talking about the NFL. And big news just hit. Actually, two big moves. Le'Veon Bell to the Chiefs and then Antonio Brown to the Buccaneers. So the rich just get richer in the NFC and AFC. And so we're going to talk about Antonio Brown specifically today. And just how much better he makes the Buccaneers team. And so before we get into a dialogue of how much better he makes their team, we cannot forget how consistently good Antonio Brown's been over the past 5 years. From 2013 to 2018, he's averaged around 1,600 receiving yards. In his last full season in the NFL, he led all receivers in 15 touchdown receptions. So we can't lose sight, just like we do with Kevin Durant or Steph Curry. When we don't see them play, we can forget how good they are. Antonio Brown is a beast, as you see in some of these highlights. So knowing that, let's talk about a lot of his off-the-field issues, how he is as a player, how he is with Tom Brady. And Jake, I'm going to start with you. How much better do you think he makes the Buccaneers team, if at all?
So first I'm going to add that during those 5 seasons as well, he had 2 seasons where he's in the top 5 in receptions for the year too, and he has that record. Just of all time for season receptions holders, he holds 2 out of the top 5. Mm-hmm. But I guess the biggest question is how much better does he make the Bucs now? Mm-hmm. And I was just watching the Buccaneers game yesterday against the Raiders, and they looked pretty good on offense. Tom Brady was hitting Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, but mostly he was hitting Scotty Miller. And I could see why they signed Antonio Brown because O.J. Howard just got hurt, so it kind of gives him an extra weapon, and Chris Godwin was hurt a little bit. He's not going to be that number one guy that he was on the Steelers, but I know that Tom Brady likes him a lot. So it really depends on how much Bruce Arians trusts him in that offense, because if Tom Brady likes you as a receiver, he's going to keep on going to you. And we see that with Scotty Miller. He's not the biggest name, but Tom obviously likes him and he trusts him. So we saw that with New England. I think even Antonio Brown was living at Tom's house for a little bit, and in that first game that they played, he had a really good drive and he was hitting him a lot. So if Bruce Arians trusts him enough to put him in, I think Tom Brady is going to hit him. It just depends on if Bruce Arians is going to trust him enough to make him part of the game plan every week.
Right, that's very true. And on paper, Antonio Brown is such an amazing sign, because I wanted to start off with that at the beginning, just how many yards and how many touchdowns he's gotten. But I see this being a really big problem in their locker room, especially because we know Antonio Brown with all the off-the-field issues, and we saw him not too long ago. Juju Smith-Schuster won MVP of the offense. He did not like that. And so when you have a culture like the Ravens or the Chiefs where it's all super built, everyone's happy for each other, Mark Ingram's hyping up Lamar Jackson, all the Kansas City receivers know they're just a track star, but they're excited when Travis Kelce gets his. Antonio Brown is definitely not that. And I'm not sure Mike Evans is either. So I think he already might have a little bit of he's not the number one option anymore, because Brady loves throwing to tight ends, loves throwing to running backs, not much, and loves throwing to slot receivers. So Mike Evans isn't getting his. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to get even less now. And so this is going to be a really, really interesting locker room dynamic, and especially him coming in, not knowing the system yet, and Scotty Miller being such a big role as a part this far. I don't know. I could see, but all that being said, winning cures all.
Yeah.
So no matter what problem you have, no matter if you're getting 0 targets, if you're winning and you win the NFC and win the Super Bowl, nobody's going to say anything. The problem, that was really cool. That was really cool. The problem I see with this team is, what if they get in and they lose 2 out of their first 3?
Yeah.
Antonio Brown, is he going to be the one for all guy? Is Mike Evans going to be that? Or is he going to point fingers at Antonio Brown? Is Antonio Brown going to respond well to that? So even though this is a huge addition and it's just another crazy weapon that the Buccaneers have, if they're not winning, I could see this crumbling apart very quickly. But because they don't have the set built culture. They have the culture of they're the most losing professional team ever, any sport ever. The Buccaneers have that culture. They bring in the greatest quarterback of all time, and I don't know if he can be the glue to all of that. I think the team they have now is very good, but winning cures all.
Yeah.
So
And I think that was a really good point about Mike Evans as well, because against the Raiders, I think it went all the way to the third or fourth quarter before he had his first reception. And he was obviously upset. You could see it on his face. So adding in Antonio Brown, who is another guy that wants the ball, that could create a lot of locker room issues. And I know I was seeing on Twitter and Instagram that Bruce Arians, his message to Antonio Brown was, be a team player or be gone.
Yep.
And I mean, I think that's a great message, especially from Bruce Arians, because he's kind of like a hard-nosed coach. He doesn't really take a lot of disrespect or anything amongst his players or amongst coaching staff, because he wants that organization that's all team players, and that's how you win. Because like Jackson was saying with Kansas City, everybody knows their role. I mean, they don't really care about targets. All they care about is winning, and that's how you're supposed to play football. It really is a true team sport. So if Antonio Brown can't fit into that, then I don't think he can really fit into the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
But kind of going off of that, they did sign him for a reason. I mean, when you sign somebody like Antonio Brown, who might have that locker room issues, but his potential is crazy just based off of his talent, they are trying to make a Super Bowl run here, and that's solely why they signed Antonio Brown. So if they could fit him into that offense, and if they have a plan for him, and this is expecting that Antonio Brown is still at his top form, or at least near his top form, then they could be dangerous. It just all depends on if they trust him enough, and if he acts responsibly enough to earn that role in the offense.
Right. And that's why this signing does have some merit, because the Buccaneers are in a short, 2-year window with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And also they're kind of doing low risk, high reward, because Antonio Brown didn't sign a 4-year deal with the Buccaneers. He signed a 1-year. If he comes there and in 2 weeks he's acting up, they just cut him.
Yeah.
And so what the after effects would have with that would be interesting. But Antonio Brown having all the potential, they might not lose another game with Antonio Brown. We've seen how good their defense is. We've seen how good their offense can be. So if there aren't these problems, this could be an amazing signing. But now we're going to talk about the other contenders in the NFC. We're just going to run through some of them quickly and see where we have the Buccaneers in comparison to the other ones. So in their own division, the New Orleans Saints. What do you think?
The Saints, I mean, they're still finding their groove. Michael Thomas has had some weird issues this year, a little bit of an injury. Then he got into a fight and got the team suspended him. If they can get going, then obviously the Saints are always a contender every year. It's going to be, we saw in the first game, the Saints beat the Bucs, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it was a close one, though. So, I mean, obviously they're going to contend. The Bucs are going to contend with the Saints. The Saints are a good contender every year. I can definitely see them making it to the divisional round and seeing where it goes from that. But obviously in your division as well, that's going to be one of the major teams that they want to attack, and definitely a team that they want to beat.
Right. Throughout more games that have been played, the first week, New Orleans clearly looked like more a dominant team. Mm-hmm. As we've seen the weeks go on, New Orleans' defense isn't as stout as we thought it was going to be. Tampa Bay's defense is better than we thought it was going to be. And I think Tom Brady, especially this last week against the Raiders, he found a groove with his offense. I felt like he was hitting everyone very evenly. He got Gronk going, got the running game going. It was really impressive. So right now, I like what I'm seeing from the Bucs a lot more than I do the Saints. We'll put these in kind of the same category because Bears and Packers in the same division, not as the Bucs, but as each other. They did lose to the Bears. They beat the Packers pretty handily. But to me, that was kind of a deceiving win and loss both terms. I think the Packers are a team that can beat the Bucs any given night. I think the score wasn't reflective of actually how comparable these two teams are, and Aaron Rodgers and his offense just couldn't get it going. And they did lose to the Bears, and I think they would beat the Bears 9 times out of 10. So it's very interesting how those two games played out, but with other contenders in the NFC, I would see the Packers as a much bigger threat than the Bears.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I really, really like the Packers offense. Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, they're coming together. And I think the game that Jackson mentioned, the Buccaneers versus Packers game, I think it was 38-10 to the Buccaneers. And the defense just shut Aaron Rodgers down. And they shut Aaron Rodgers down. And, I think that was more of a testament to the Buccaneers defense than the Packers offense. So I still think the Packers offense is top 5 in the league. But the Bucs really showed us what they could do, because I was thinking that the Packers were possibly the best team in football up to that game. Right. And the Buccaneers just showed, hey, we're a contender. We're here to play. Anybody that you put us up against, we're going to give them a good fight. So I think that was just, if you're a Buccaneers fan or a believer in the Buccaneers, I think that was a great game to show you that they have a lot of potential this year.
Definitely their biggest win of the season so far, definitely. Okay, so the next 4 contenders in the NFC are actually all from the same division. This division is insane this year. We have the Seahawks, Rams, 49ers, and Cardinals. And we'll pair them up together. So we actually ran out of Antonio Brown's highlights. So we're actually going to look at the team he's joining, the Buccaneers. This is their last game against the Raiders. We've been talking about how great their defense is. Just watch them get dotted up right there. But this was a very good win they had. So we're going to talk about where the Buccaneers now are in the NFC. We're going to pair the Seahawks and Rams first. And I'm going to say that the Seahawks are actually a really good matchup for the Buccaneers. And by good matchup, I mean good for the Buccaneers. Because Seattle's defense is not good. And I think Tampa Bay is so balanced on offense now that they're really going to be able to score almost every possession, whether it's 3 or 7. Like, I don't see them punting much in that game. Just like we saw last night with the Cardinals. The Cardinals did not really punt the ball all that much. And Seattle's offense is, when it comes down to playoffs and Super Bowls, defense always trumps a good offense. So the Buccaneers have one of the best defenses in the league. I think Seattle's offense can be limited in how much they can protect Russell Wilson. And so I think if we're looking at who's more of a competition between the Seahawks and the Rams, I think the Rams are actually a more overall well-balanced team for the Buccaneers to play and have problems with.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point that you said the Buccaneers have a balanced offense, because I have Tom Brady in fantasy. 1 week he puts up 30 points, like over 300 yards and around 4 or 5 touchdowns. Against the Raiders, he put up 360 and 5 touchdowns, I believe.
Yep.
But against the Packers, the defense controlled the game, but they gave Ronald Jones the ball so many times. I think he had over 100 yards rushing. And Bruce Arians, he's just going to do whatever works to win. And it's crazy because they have the capability to kind of do whatever they want if they read it correctly. Bruce Arians is a really smart coach, so he'll get in a good game plan. And now he's on a team where he has the players to execute his game plan. So if they find a hole in the defense, they can kind of exploit any hole that they really want to.
That's very true. And I think that's a big part of what Tom Brady brought from New England, because now we are seeing a lot of checkdowns, this, that, the other thing, doing whatever it takes to win, hand it off. And then Bruce Arians has seen that now all the deep down the field shots he wants to take, they're open now. Whereas before they were forced and jump balls, all these little dink and dunk, play action, running the ball, all these deep shots are open for the Buccaneers now. So I think this incorporates the Patriot system and Bruce Arians' really, really creative, deep offensive schemes. So I really like that. So next, we're going to talk about the 49ers and the Cardinals. And I'll let you go. Do you think either of these teams have a good competition for the Bucs?
So I need to see the 49ers more, because obviously they had some injuries to start off the year, and they started off the year kind of shaky. And I was even kind of counting them out like, all right, the 49ers aren't going to be as good this year. But then they blew out the Rams, and the Rams have been looking pretty good this year. And then they just blew out the Patriots. Obviously, the Patriots are not the same Patriots that we know, but the 49ers are saying, hey, like, don't count us out. We're still fighting. I don't think I've seen enough of them to fully give like a true opinion on it, because I think they're getting better week by week. But the Cardinals are an explosive team. I mean, they just beat the Seahawks, who were undefeated up to this point. And I think both of them could give the Buccaneers a run for their money. I think a lot of these contenders in the NFC, they're contenders for a reason, because they have the weapons, they have the assets, and they have the coaches. All of these teams, they have great coaches that are drawing up things for their players. So Cardinals or Niners, I think they'll be good games. Right now, I still want to lean towards the Bucs over both of them. But we saw what the Cardinals can do, their offense. So if anything, they could definitely be, I don't know, I guess a contender and I guess a competitor that the Bucs have to watch out for.
Right. See, that was a vintage Gronkowski and Tom Brady connection right there. I'm having a really hard time with this Cardinals and Niners, because in any given game, I think that the Buccaneers would beat, or the Cardinals could beat the Buccaneers, but in a playoff game, I just don't see or Kyler Murray beating Tom Brady in a playoff game. Like, that just feels really weird to me. The 49ers, I'm also very confused on because they've had some games. They broke their whole team when they played the Jets. They're coming back from the injuries now. I think they're only down Nick Bosa now. And maybe a few other minor pieces, but all their major pieces are back. They have been looking a lot good. Kyle Shanahan looks like he has his offense back and rolling. I'm really interested because I think Jimmy Garoppolo either needs to step up big or they're going to move on from him briefly because I think they're starting to realize they overpaid for him for like someone that's just like more hands the ball off and makes like easy throws.
Yeah.
So the 49ers with a really, really formidable quarterback would be the scariest team in football. So I think it's up to Jimmy G if he can either elevate his team. If Jimmy G has a game like I know he can have, I think they're a better team and can beat the Bucs, especially with Kyle Shanahan. I give him the coaching advantage just because how creative he is. I'm going to have the Bucs over the Cardinals, but right now if I think the 49ers met the Bucs, I think the 49ers would win. And I put in the NFC East.
Trash.
Just kind of a joke. Eagles, Washington football team, Cowboys. It's just a dumpster fire. Giants, they have 6 combined wins as a division. I think the Steelers have 6 wins just for themselves.
Yeah.
It's just embarrassing. So I put in the NFC East as a joke. And the last thing we're gonna talk about is, are we surprised Antonio Brown didn't go to any other teams besides the Buccaneers? I knew ones that were surfacing were the Ravens and the Seahawks. So are you surprised that he didn't choose, or the other teams didn't go after him harder than the Bucs?
I'm not surprised that they didn't sign him, especially because Antonio Brown had one of the biggest breakdowns I've ever seen, one of the biggest and fastest breakdowns I've ever seen from a pro player, really like a person in general, because he went from a guy that was so humble, worked hard every day, and then he just got so obsessed with himself and his ego got too big, and he just started focusing on numbers and money and thinking that he was the best. And obviously he had great numbers, but when you start acting like that, you're a bad teammate, nobody wants you on their team, and he was just detrimental to locker rooms. So especially with teams like the Ravens and Seahawks who have good locker rooms and they made it to the playoffs last year, they're really looking at the risk versus reward type deals. And the Ravens did sign Dez Bryant to I'm not sure if it's official yet, or they were planning on signing him to their practice squad to fill that gap. But we see that the Seahawks offense is doing just fine without Antonio Brown. So I'm not surprised that they didn't sign him.
Making a quick sub video about the Dez Bryant signing to the Ravens. Trash. So I don't know what that was all for. And I'm going to go on the record and say that I'm very, very surprised that he didn't go to the Ravens. And I think this would have been a much better fit for him, because when you're looking at culture and locker rooms, like we saw Randy Moss be able to go to the Patriots and kind of have a more team aspect, but really be able to shine. The Buccaneers don't have the culture. They have Tom Brady. And so if they're really putting a lot on Tom Brady to hold all this together, whereas the Ravens, they have the coaching, the executive, the quarterback, and everyone on the team built in, or that's bought into this one goal. And I think that would be a way better system for him. And not only that, but when Antonio Brown were to go in there, he would be the number one option.
True.
He would be the best receiver on that team. And you don't really have the same competition as you do within position. So if Mark Andrews and all their tight ends were going and Lamar was having a good game, I think Antonio Brown would be really excited. I think it's the inner wide receiver battle where I don't think he'd have that. I think he'd be the number one receiver target for Lamar Jackson, and it would make him that much better. And I'm surprised the Ravens didn't pull the trigger on it for how embarrassingly bad they just got beat by the Chiefs a few weeks ago. True. So that's their main competitor in the AFC, and the fact that they didn't go and look for someone to put them over the hump of that really surprised me. And I think Antonio Brown would have loved to play in Baltimore alongside Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because all 3 quarterbacks, Lamar, Tom Brady, and Russell Wilson, they're all speaking very highly of Antonio Brown. Right. And I think the Ravens are the biggest team where they just need a receiver. They need his talent. So if anybody were to sign based off of talent, I definitely think it was the Ravens. Yeah. I think it would have been the Ravens, and it would have been good for their team, maybe just off of talent-wise, but I just think John Harbaugh is looking at it and thinking he doesn't want to risk possibly messing up the culture that they have there by signing Antonio Brown.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say about that is I feel like the quote for this video, winning cures all. I think
Yeah.
Antonio Brown would be fine anywhere he wins. Knowing the Ravens are going to win 13 to 14 games in the regular season, I think unless he had like a specific meltdown in the playoffs, he wouldn't really be that much of a trouble because you can see people like Odell have a blast when they're winning. But when they're losing, you really get to see kind of like what they're made out of. So
Protect the kicking net.
yeah, so I'm surprised. I do overall think it's a very interesting signing by the Buccaneers. I think on paper they look a lot better. If Tom Brady can hold this together and they're okay with just like cutting him immediately if he does anything, then I don't really see a problem with it. I hope he like is okay with all the other receivers doing well. I hope this works out for the Buccaneers because we're going through the list. We almost have them as favorites of anyone in the NFC. So we could potentially see the first home team Super Bowl with it being in Tampa Bay this year. So we might see that. I'm very excited to see how Tom Brady and Antonio Brown do their first week together next week.
Yeah, it should be.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Comment down below what you guys think about the Antonio Brown signing. If he should have gone to any other teams or how much better this actually makes the Buccaneers. And as always, we'll see you next time.
See you guys.